it's now time for a little Najee Harris discussion. Glad that we're finally getting to that. Now, everyone knows when it comes to Najee Harris, no one has been a bigger critic of Najee Harris than me, okay? But there was a statistic I saw on PFF College that made me say just maybe Najee can win Martin over. Najee Harris, amongst SEC running backs with a minimum of 75 attempts, has the highest missed forced tackle per attempt. Every third carry, 0.32. Every third carry, James, he's breaking a tackle, which would naturally mean that if he gets more carries, the more broken tackles he's going to get. Of course, your question and my question is, does that include the hurdle? Maybe, maybe not. But if he's able to do that, if Najee Harris is able to do that, or all of a sudden, are we looking at a guy who is a game changer? Are we looking at a guy who has a breakout season? Are we looking at a guy that has one of Alabama's best seasons? Are we looking at a guy that clearly clears the 1,000-yard hurdle and goes on to do some special things in the running game, the passing game? With more touches, does he become a better player? And see what Gregory has to say. We got three people in line here. Gregory, you're in with the Blitz. What's on your mind, man?
Yes, I really do. Martin, I really do think Martin Harris is going to be a game changer. But my question is, you know what I'm saying, with our offensive line, you know what I'm saying, because the focus is more on the running game, you know what I'm saying, and our running game going to improve. But my question is, for the offensive line, you know, when they practice so much on, you know, on the running game, don't that leave a gap for, you know, like blocking, you know, for the quarterback, you know, protecting the quarterback?
What?
I did a little research on it, you know what I'm saying, and I took your report, you know, like balance, you know what I'm saying. It ain't never been an offense that really, you know what I'm saying, they have a good running game, they have a bad protection game. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but
if they got a good protection game, they got a bad running game. So
yeah.
My question to you, to 1980, you know what I'm saying, from now all the way up to now, name a team that had a balanced offense that could protect the quarterback and, you know what I'm saying, have an awesome running game. Now, not with, you know, a mobile quarterback, playing a quarterback in the pocket. Yeah. I never found that yet.
Well, I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to answer your question, Gregory. Here's a team that had that. Every one of Nick Saban's teams prior to Jalen. Every one of Nick Saban's teams had balanced offense with a balanced running game. A.J. McCarron, it was typically 3,000 and some change and 3,000 and some change with the running game, passing game under when A.J. McCarron was here, when Coker was here. The question becomes, what is Sarkisian going to bring to the table? I don't think this offensive line is as far off as everybody thinks it is, because I feel bad for our offensive line because of the way they get dogged about last year, James. They get dogged a lot based on protecting Tua and some of those things. And I think some of that has to do with the play calling and some not protecting Tua, I'm sorry, with the way they ran block. When we had to run the ball early in the season, we were able to do it. But we got worse at that as the season went along. Why would we get worse at run blocking as the season goes along? Because we became more and more RPO dependent. Remember, guys, if I'm told, hit that guy in the mouth, drive him in the dirt because it's a running play, I can fire off and I do not have to hold back, James. Once I get my hands on him, I can run him 3 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, whatever. the exact same guy that I can dominate in a run block, when it's an RPO, I am required to stop at 3 yards. When I push, the thing about running lanes, James, running lanes are created when one guy pushes the guy a little bit farther than the other guy. In other words, if they all push the run players to 3 yards, what happens? If we have all our guys drive their guys 3 yards off the ball, what happens? You get a 3-yard gain. Why? Because the line of scrimmage just moved. Say the center doesn't drive his guy but 1 yard, but the guard drives his guy 3 yards. That's in the tackle drives his guy 1 yard. All of a sudden, the running back has 2 lanes as long as that lineman has control of that guy. And so if you drive one guy 6 yards and one guy 4 yards and one guy 2 yards, all of a sudden the running back has running lanes to hop into and shoot in and out of and make cuts off of. We didn't have that last year because we were so RPO heavy. Now, if you do it the way Auburn does and your linemen just go downfield 6-7 yards, whether it's a run, pass, or not, like they did when they beat us that year, guy was 8 yards downfield when they threw the ball. If they don't call it, but they're going to call it against Alabama because we're the most penalized team in the SEC and in the country. So we're not going to get away with that. So that's my thought. I think Alabama goes back to a more balanced approach this year, and I think that's why Najee Harris has a big season. Pat, I know you big on them California boys, so come on, bring it on.
Well, I know you think they're surfer boys. You realize Milton, a 6'2" running back out of California will be on campus this weekend. But ain't what I called about. I called about Najee Harris. Najee Harris needs a ball 25 times plus a ball game, just like my man Derrick Henry. He's 6'2". He's 220 pounds. He runs in the 4.5 and less, depending on who's clocking. And I'm telling you, Martin, Najee, this is going to be his breakout year that he has no less than 120 yards per game.
Let me ask you this, Pat. Let me ask you this. If Najee gets 25 carries, does that come off of Tua's passing attempts or Brian Robinson rushing attempts?
It's going to be Brian Robertson blocking for him.
So you're going to have the best running back on the team blocking?
Look, Martin, I know what you think. I like Brian Robertson too.
I like both of them.
But they're gonna be fine. And we got other running backs. We got one that claims he's gonna be the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
So what do? You got one ball. But
back to your point, based on the PFF college ranking poll that they did for SEC running backs, if Najee Harris gets 25 carries a game, you know how many broken tackles he's going to have based on his average if that continues? 8.
I
think about that for a second.
I think he's going to have 2 touchdowns a ball game.
But you see what I'm saying? If he gets 25 carries a game, based on that statistic where he breaks a tackle, every third carry he's breaking a tackle. That means he's going to break, on average, 8 tackles a game. And if he's breaking 8 tackles a game, several of those are going to lead to 45, 50-yard runs.
Yes,
so I see what you're saying.
Yeah, just like Michael Jordan, players want the ball.
Yes, right.
Najee's a player.
Listen, what did I say? Nobody's been harder on him than me. But seeing this statistic, if it bears out in numbers, can Najee win me over? Maybe, just maybe. So I'm willing to give him a chance.
If Najee has over 1,200 yards, and Brian Robertson has 1,000, and Tua has 4,000, we win the national title.
I hear
have
you.
A blessed day, Martin.
You too, Pat. All right, Jimmy, you're in with the Blitz. What's on your mind?
Oh, I agree with what you were saying. I think that Najee Harris reminds me a lot of Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
And,
and Najee may be one of those old school guys, Jimmy. You remember Herschel Walker and Bo Jack. Where Herschel Walker, the first 15 carries Herschel had was really just warming you up for the beatdown he's going to give you on the next 10.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's the best way I can describe it. I mean, you watch Herschel Walker, the first 15 carries, he'd break one here and there. Then all of a sudden, his last, he'd have, I tell people, he'd have 75 yards on his first 15 carries. Then he'd have 150 on the next 10. So he was, he was special. And Najee may be one of those guys. The question is, the game's changed so much. Can he get that many carries? And with Tua and the number of receivers and with Robinson being behind him, it's just, Alabama, I guess a good question, Jimmy, is how many plays you think Alabama have to run a game to keep these guys happy? Think about that for a second. You got 4 wide receivers. You're going to have tight end. You're going to have
you're going to look at 60 plus.
I think they'll have to run 80 plus plays a game to keep everybody happy. To get the touches.
Keep everybody happy.
Yep.
But can they stay healthy? That's the key.
Yeah.
Keeping them healthy.
So, all right. Hey, Jimmy, are you the same Jimmy Fuller that was replying online about the Oregon?
Yeah, that was me.
Jimmy was disagreeing with me on Facebook on Oregon. He told me they're going. He said I was saying they were going to go undefeated if they beat Auburn. He said they'll be 9-3 or 8-4. So, all right, Jimmy, we got that. We have that in the record books now. You and I, we're on different sides on this Oregon thing. So,
okay, we'll see who's right at the end of the year.
All right, you make sure you call me back. Thanks, Jimmy.
I'll do it, buddy.
All right, have a good one.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate that autograph that you got me.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Glad to.
All right, man.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be calling you back some other day.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Have a good one.
All right, bud.
All right,
you
bye-bye.
too. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. We'll get the break here, James. Is this going to be Najee's breakout year? How many yards you think he can have if he stays healthy? And will the type of offense determine whether or not it works out the way we think it should? We'll have to check that out and see. So we'll talk about that coming back as we wrap up this edition of the Blitz with the final University of Oil and Facial Surgery 2-minute warning. As we wrap up our conversation regarding, is this Najee Harris's breakout season? Came here as the top overall running back in the country. He's had moments, but he's had a critic in me, and I know that. I recognize that, but I want to see the young man succeed. Now, I don't want to see him succeed at the expense of Brian Robinson not getting a fair shot. I want to see Brian Robinson get his chance to. Brian Robinson, a young man, local kid from Hillcrest High School, who has, to me, everything it takes to be a great running back in the college game and at the next level in NFL. And will he have to wait one more year to get his chance? Or will Sarkisian figure out how to keep this balance? The question is, James, how bad does Alabama beat everybody? How quick do they put everybody away? How much do they have to spend time getting the backup quarterback ready just in case? Why do I think Alabama has a breakout season from the standpoint of the running game and what's happening with the running game, James, is I think it comes down to Sarkisian, first of all, tends to run more of a balanced approach than possibly Kiffin and Loxley. Also, I think when you have young quarterbacks and the possibility of a quarterback who has shown the ability to be injured in Tua, you have to have an offense ready that's efficient when he's in there and effective, but also should he be injured, you don't want to have to flip the script and start completely over. But you also don't want to pigeonhole Tua. So I think you're going to see a more balanced approach. And does that benefit Najee Harris? Because I think they're going to want to establish the running game early. So I think Najee Harris benefits from Nick Saban trying to bring it back to the middle. I think he gets in that 20, 18 to 22 carries a game. I think you're going to see Brian Robinson get into that 12 to 15 carries a game maybe. And then you'll have the third team guy, the change up back, whether it's, Sanders or Robinson or one of the other guys that they may work into that role. But Alabama running backs, I think, are going to get back, James, where we see the ball being carried 35 to 40 times a game, and then we'll be throwing the ball probably about 40 times a game. I think we're going to average somewhere between 75 to 80, 85 plays a game. What do you think Najee does if he's able to get the number of carries we're anticipating him having?
With the amount of games that Alabama plays now, plus postseason numbers counting to your overall season's totals, I think Najee Harris, if he can get the carries that you're saying he could get, then I'd say around 1,500 yards.
Yeah, and that would, and you're anticipating Alabama making it to the national championship game?
Yes, I mean, even just assuming if they get to the college football playoff, 1,500 yards plus an SEC championship game appearance, 1,500 yards would be reasonable.
Yeah, 1,500, I would think would be, if you get to the national championship game, that's averaging 100 yards a game. There's going to be a couple games, I think, where he has some plus 100-yard games and breakout games, especially considering what PFF college football has said. Every third carry, he breaks one, okay? And so if he gets the number of carries we're talking about this young man not being brought down when he should have been 8 times a game. And if he's doing that, you're going to see more consistent. We didn't have but a couple of long runs last year. And I think he's a lot like Derrick Henry. If you get him at the line of scrimmage, so running back. Get him in open field, he can become a weapon and can become very dangerous. The only thing I want to see him change is the leap. I want to see him, instead of trying to jump over those guys, now everybody expects that. So use that to your advantage, Najee, if you happen to be listening to the Blitz or somebody tells you this. Use all of that the good Lord gave you. Use that 6'2", 230-pound body and let them think you're going to jump on them. And right when they get ready to lift up and raise up, you put a shoulder into them and absolutely run them over. Finish them off. Finish him off. If he becomes that runner, I'm not saying do away with that. That's part of who he is. That's okay. Still use that, James. Still use the hurdle. Just don't do it every time in open field. Use that body that the good Lord gave you and punish. Because here's the thing. If he does it consistently, that .32, James, will go up to .50 because guys will get tired. Just like by the end of the game, who wanted to tackle Derrick Henry on carry 33, 34, 35, 38? No one. And it'll get that way with him. If he punishes people, they will not want to tackle him. So, Najee Harris has a chance to win me over. So I'm going to get on the Najee Harris bandwagon and say Najee Harris has a breakout season. He gets one game to win me over, James. If it doesn't happen against Duke, I'm jumping off the wagon and starting back. I'm still on the Brian Robinson bandwagon. I think both of these guys gets over 1,000 yards. Najee Harris, I'm going to be with you, James, get somewhere in that 12 to 1,500 based on how much damage Robinson does and how often they get to play. If they're blowing people out, he's not going to get to that 1,500 clip just because of playing time. But he'll be on average, if he averaged 22 to 24 carries a game, he'll be on track to get that 1,500.